All right, guys, I have been requested to talk about hierarchy. Hierarchy on a print design. We're going to figure out, we've just been given a brief by a customer. We're going to figure out how to put their information on their page so that it can sell its message the best it can. Now, this is a sticking point with a lot of designers. They're not sure. They know how to make things look good, but they don't know how to communicate properly. So I'm going to go through from start to finish, and we are going to show you guys exactly how to build hierarchy into your print designs. So my client here is Visa Solutions. This isn't actually mine specifically. I've been requested this from a friend. I'm just helping him out, and I'll just talk about it like it's my client. So Visa Solutions here, I know what they do is they help with migration, dealing for employers. Let's go through their content and see what we've got and what we have to put on this A4 page. So what we have here is we have Visa Solutions Australia. Who are we? Visa Solutions are a multinational, highly experienced, full-service migration agency. We pride ourselves on an exceptional customer service and our attention to detail. Okay, firstly, it's really important to groom the content because you're trying to make it as short and succinct as possible. The customers only have a small amount of time to read what you're trying to sell. You got to show them that, and then that's it. You got them for about 5 seconds tops. Large enough to handle your work, small enough to care. So this seems like they want to tell us who they are. Large enough to handle your work, small enough to care. It sounds like a feature or a benefit. Get accountability and a personal touch from our team. Don't have your applications handled by 10 different people. You will have one point of contact who are accessible and available to answer all your questions. So all of this here, the big thing I'm pulling out of that is you have one point of contact. You have one person to talk to. Employer migration specialists. Okay, so that's exactly what they do. That's a succinct way of saying it. They are employer migration specialists. We are a one-stop shop for recruitment, labor agreements, compliance, and all other aspects of employer migration. Don't have a different company handling each step of the process. Let the team at Visa Solutions make life easy for you and your company. All right, so this is a big convenience piece, right? You just have to go to them, and that's it. And that's all you got to do. They got 3 things here: experienced, trustworthy, and gangsters. Okay, so right here, these must be 3 like big benefits that kind of come out. The gangsters must be just like the third one that they've sent across. They're going to revise text and send it back through to me. But I'll go through this at the end. All right, so, and then we have our contact information. This must be some sort of registration number, a phone number, and an email. That's cool. That's great. That's fine. So there's not a lot of information here, which is good. It's going to mean it's really succinct. We can make this information nice and compact. But there are a few things that I want to pull out here that you'll see through when you comb through your information. It's really important that you comb through all the information that you're given so that you can make it as succinct as possible. So, who are we? This whole line here, a multinational, highly experienced, full-service migration agency. So this is the most important thing. They're a full-service migration agency, which they reiterate here, the employee migration specialists. So I think we can just take one of these, and we won't take the rest of this. We pride ourselves on exceptional customer service and our attention to detail. So does every other company. You wouldn't be a company if you didn't have exceptional customer service and attention to detail. Large enough to handle your work, small enough to care. So this whole thing here, I don't really see that as a massive benefit, that they're big enough, but they're personalized. I think that's a red herring, and it's not really drawing attention. And I think there's one line in here, one point of contact, right? So you have this one point of contact here. I'm going to highlight that. Full service migration agency, will highlight that. And a one-stop shop for recruitment, labor agreements, compliance, and all other aspects of employer migration. So maybe employer migration too, But the big thing here is that they're recruitment, labor agreements, and compliance. So they're like three big, they're all going to be handled by one person. So they're three big, they're three key features: recruitment, labor agreements, compliance. And they're all going to be handled by one person, convenient for you. So that's all we need to really worry about. Don't have different company handling each step of the process. Nah, don't need this. Experienced, trustworthy, it's corporate bullshit at that point. Everyone is that. We'll get rid of that. We won't use that. And this information. So usually you're handed this kind of Word doc. And what we'll do is we'll just bring this into our sketch program. So let's grab all of this and we'll paste it onto our A4 page. Now it's all text in there. It's been brought through. It's very important when you're kind of trying to lay this out. We're just going to use Roboto, a real simple font. And for some reason it is massive. We'll go 16 point, which is the standard reading, and we'll just make it 100% black. Now what we want to do here is we want to break down into little chunks, right? What's the most important for them to see? What do they need to read next? And then what do they need to see at the bottom? Okay, so Visa Solutions Australia, I reckon, is going to be one of the big things. We'll bring that up at the top. We'll leave that up there. Now, we grabbed in here, we want full service migration agency. Full service migration agency. Let's cut that out and paste that. I'm using Control X and Control V. We don't want anything else there. That whole thing can go. Large enough to handle UX, small enough to care. So this bit here is the one point of contact. All right. Paste that and bring that down to the bottom as well. Okay, so it's for recruitment, labor agreements, complier, and migration, employee migration. Okay. We don't need any of this experienced, trustworthy gangsters. These benefits, not necessary. We'll delete them. And we'll grab this customer information. So we'll grab this. This is the contact right at the bottom, and we'll just move this to the side in a new artboard, just in case we ever need to come back to it for slight wording problems. But so far we have this. This is literally all the customer is going to read from it. So we'll move that to the bottom. First of all, we'll left align all of this text here. For readability reasons, it's always important to left align your text. And we are going to pull out all of these headings. So we'll start off with full migration agency. So we'll put that in the middle. We'll say this, they're a full migration agency. And we'll make the text larger. Give it a capital F. Maybe even we'll say your full service migration agency. Straight away, who are Visa Solutions? Your full service migration agency. Oh, awesome. That's great. What else do I know? What else do I need to know about them? All right, we're going to grab these three things and we're going to turn them into individual headers. Rule of 3 is a very good way. When you want people to digest information, the rule of 3 is going to work a treat because it's easy to remember. 3 points. Everything you do is in threes. It doesn't overload them with information that they don't need to know. So I think the customer has given me, Visa Solutions has given me this because they believe recruitment, labor agreements, and compliance are some of the 3 biggest things. Like, I know nothing about Visa Solutions and immigration laws, and that's up to the customer. That's up to the client. But I know from what they've given to me, I can digest that and kind of realize that they wouldn't have put this down unless they thought that was the most important thing that they do that the other companies don't do. And we can even keep this and all other aspects of employer migration, and we just might use it in a secondary aspect. So there's one point of contact we are going to bring down here. So the idea is that we have the way it reads, and we'll move this down to the side. This doesn't need to be as large. This is contact information, so let's go and make this 12. We'll put it all on one line. Doesn't need to take up that much information, so we'll use dashes to separate that, and we'll do that. So there's dashes in between everything. We're going to middle align that, and we'll just kind of hover that closer down to the bottom. People don't need to read that. We'll leave that at the bottom. So if you just read this as it is right now, you have Visa Solutions, you have the company, your full service migration agency for recruitment, labor agreements, and compliance, and all other aspects of employer migration. You have one point of contact. Contact us now for all your employee needs. That's succinct. That's perfect. And you can kind of see, we'll change, I think these three need to be a little bit more prominent. So we'll make them bold, and we'll increase their weight just a little bit. We'll make it 18. And so you can see these are the three biggest, and all other aspects of employer migration. It's important that they do, it's other stuff. And I guarantee if you took this back and you just pulled these three and you showed that to your client, they'd tell you to cram it all back in. So it's best just to let them know that cut. It's best to let them know that they do recruitment, labor agreements, and compliance. If you were to take that back to the customer and just have those three and not say and all other aspects, you might get kickback from the client because they want the customer to make sure that that's not all they do, and more. That situation. So we'll leave that in. It's not going to be detrimental to our design. We'll make it smaller. And what we're doing is we're just making it slightly lighter. So I'm just going to bring this up further up in the gray. Just make this all grayscale to begin with. Let's not worry about color or shapes. And your one point of contact. So there needs to be, so it reads like a full sentence. Visa Solutions, your full service migration agency. We specialize in, for example, we'll go, we specialize in, put that in the middle, and we'll make that slightly smaller and unbold it. We specialize in recruitment, labor agreements, compliance, and all other aspects of employee migration. One point of contact. So what we'll do is we have this piece of information in here, which is let the team at Visa Solution make life easy for you and your company. Contact us now. So now what we want to do, we have a bit of hierarchy to the page. We'll use some background colors to kind of draw and pull things forward and push things back, using the company's color palette, of course. So we're just making these squares and bring these squares over here, alt dragging. So you basically just grab one, hold down Option or Alt and drag to make a copy of it. And we're just going to color pick from the logo that was provided so we can find the base values of all three colors that they use. So it looks like they use a majority of a blue palette with a tiny bit of red inside it. You can supplement these colors with a lot of blacks, grays, whites. These are just the three standout colors. So we'll start off by drawing out attention to We haven't got the logo as white, so we'll just leave that as a white background to begin with. And we'll move this rectangle to the back, drop the border, and really draw attention to this line here. I'm just going to center this in the middle of the page and make sure it's sitting in the middle of everything. Your full service migration agency. We specialize in recruitment, labor agreements, and compliance, all aspects of employee migration, with one point of contact. So, I'm going to make the bottom of this the same color as well. So we're going to grab this and this. We're going to start adding little splashes of color. And you can just kind of watch how I build this up. Selecting all of these and turning it to white. You can already see just adding a bit of color to this has just changed it completely. Now the other points that I'm worrying about is spacing, and it's still a little bit bland, right? Because all we've got is text, and all we have is text, and all we have is squares of color. So before we get to that, let me quickly talk about this. This logo here, it says when I click it in the middle that it's vertically aligned. Because of this circle here, it's not optically aligned. My eyes don't see this as being completely centered. So it's best, you can kind of just, what you're trying to do here, you're trying to line up Visa Solutions. And that should be the middle, right? So let's drop this down behind this logo. And we'll center that box, right? And then we'll grab this logo and we'll visually center to that box. Delete the box from behind. And now it looks much more like the logo is directly down the center of that page. So we have these three pull-out features here. Now, asking the customer to read is still a bit too much. So what we'll do here is we'll bring in icons, all right? And icons are amazing. They're a great way to digest information really quickly, and they're super easy to find. So I have this site I love to use called Flat Icons. Now, you can build your own if you have the time. Sometimes you won't have that time. It's a luxury to build your own custom items in the professional world. So in Flat Icon, we can type in the word recruitment. And hopefully someone's built something similar to recruit. Look at this, perfect. So we have an hourglass, a looking glass with a person behind it, like you're searching for someone. So that's perfect. The next thing we have to do is look at the style that we're kind of grabbing. This is probably too cartoony for this company. You'll notice that the company has a very professional tone to it. If you go to their website, you can see that they're using, stock imagery, real people here, and it's quite a professional faced employee company. So what we'll do is we'll grab, that's a good one there. There's probably a bit too much going on. I think this one explains it a lot quicker. We'll download the SVG. Now, for Flat Icon, you should be referencing. I have a paid account, so when I finally send this back to the customer, all the attribution will be fine. But when you're using the free version, you have to attribute. So you have to copy in and paste this attribute and put it on your document. Okay, it's great that it's a free resource, but we don't want to abuse it. So we have this recruitment.svg. I've just dragged and dropped it into our design. And we'll select everything inside this box. This is an SVG that I downloaded. So that means it's going to be, I can scale it to any size and we're not going to have a problem. I'm going to make it red. Why not? We'll match it to the stamp inside the logo. And we'll scale this down to, 128. Oh, it's not all selected. See how I did that? And some of the stuff was popping out. It's because I've selected all of these rather than selecting the group itself. So I'll just press cancel, select it so I'm only selecting the group, and then scale him down. We'll go 64 pixels. Yeah, we'll go 64 pixels. All right. We'll place him in there. Now, is there a... No, that's fine. And we'll space them. So see how it says 14 pixels there? We'll make it 16 pixels. It's really good to have a consistent grid that you're building up. And the grid that I like to use, and it's kind of come from my digital background, is a 4-pix grid. So we go 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and it just kind of doubles, right? So if it's 16 pix is too small, then you go 32 pix. And if that's too small, you go 64 pix. But you're not worrying about 1 or 2 pixels. It's like, it's a grid. You've got specific guidelines, and that's all you stick to. Labor agreements, all right? So typing in labor agreements, I've got a feeling that I'm not going to find anything around that. But we can either show a picture of a laborer, or we can have agreements of 2 people shaking hands. I think we might be able to get away with maybe just labor. And now the second thing is that whatever icon we decide to pick up has to be in a similar visual style to what we've already picked. So this has rounded edges, has quite a thick line, and it's not filled in with any colors. So even on flat icon, you can change the color filter to monocolor, and that gets rid of all of your options. So something like this is great. I won't log in with my premium account. So we'll go with a bit of a shop around. Maybe like a hard hat might go well. We'll go this. I've scrolled past this 3 times and it looks like it's doing a good job. Now there's a slight difference in design. You'll notice that this has like little shading elements inside it, which none of this has, but it does have these rounded edges as well, these 100% rounded corners, so visually it kind of works. So we'll scale that down to the exact same size, which was 64 pixels, I think, in width. Now that's a bit taller because this is 64 in width. That is still 64, but it's a tall icon. So you want to make sure that the height is 64 pixels. So that it shares the same visual weight. We'll center this because it's going to be right in the middle of everything, and it's 16 pixels away from labor agreements. I'm going to hold down Command and select it all, and that's going to select everything on the inside, and we're going to select that color. So now we have compliance. All right, compliance. To comply. What does to comply mean? In an icon term, far out. GDPR came out. Yep, that makes sense. To comply is maybe a checkbox to tick. So let's go check boxes. Now, some people might be criticizing me here because... we'll skip that. I think I've clicked on something wrong. Checkbox. Because... I'm going to stereotypes, and it's not original design that you're using a checkbox for something that requires a tick, for example. But we're talking about people who are trying to digest a message, and we're trying to communicate with them in the quickest way possible. And unfortunately, that doesn't mean we can be over the top, and we don't have that creative license to build our own stuff all the time. So what we get to do is we get to use existing icons, using existing preconceived notions of what compliance means. They see a tick box, they mean, yep, it's all good, cool, that's fine, that's all I need to know. We're not saturating the message, they totally understand, and they get to just digest the message a lot easier. So this one here looks pretty good too. Checklist.svg, we'll bring him in here, we'll do the same thing. So we'll scale him down to 64 pixels. He is a tall vector. Sorry. So we'll do 64 in height because he's tall. Make it 16, space it across, and put it here. And so we'll space out that the same as that. So now we're adding a little bit more. It definitely reads a lot easier now. Okay, cool. There's 3 major things that I need to pull out. We're a full service migration agency. The full stop adds authority to the end of it. Maybe you don't need it. It works in this regard. Now, what next? Oh, one point of contact. So, I reckon that should be a person. That should be a friendly person. One will have user. We'll type in user or person or something like that. And we'll see if we can get one person. Maybe not with the stethoscope. That won't work. Some icons behind there. We want a professional. We want one person who looks professional. That's probably a bit too cutesy. Now, this 3 point looks really good. I might actually just use him, because I really like how he looks, even though he comes with a team. But it's quite confusing if I was to say 1 point of contact and then have 3 people. So what we can do with SVGs, we can edit it. We can actually go into it. And in this case, we're just going to put a mask. So I'm just going to make a vector mask around this guy. What we'll do is we'll make this quite large. We'll drag him to the side. Get him on an artboard. What we want to do is just chop around that dude's shoulders. Let's get the vector pen out, make 2 points, draw a little curvature of a line, come down the bottom. It's basically just showing what we want to cut out. We're going to do the same around this guy's side as well. So we'll have a spot there and pull it around. We could have searched for a better one, for sure, which we wouldn't have to do this to. But sometimes you just have to hack, and for the point of this video, it'll prove what we need to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all of these paths and shape. Might put that in there actually. Put it to the bottom, right click and set it as a mask. And you can see now everything behind it has just disappeared. I can still move this around and you can see the people inside there. And I will remove the mask's border. Remove that border, and now we just have one guy. I'm going to scale him down to half that size. Cool. So now we just need a little bit more space, and we're letting the content decide how this flyer is being built. All right. So we'll move this. What I want to do now is I want to see what happens when all 3 lines go to one person, right? So really give that visual aspect, that 3 things, that everything is coming down to one point of contact to make it easy for you. Okay. So we'll grab the vector tool and we'll draw our left arrow. So we'll click here, click down on the point of contact, and we'll make a line that goes directly into the center. And we will change the end ahead to be an arrow point, and we will add some, what's the word? Weight to the stroke. Now it's important to make that, when you're making a lot of arrows on the page, you cannot make the arrows look messy. When you're trying to make it say, when you're trying to convey the message that it's clean and convenient and mess free, the last thing you want to do is then bring in a bunch of a bunch of clutter around everywhere. So I'm just going to select all these guys. I'm just making them the same color to match that color palette. Moving him up, and then we just need a down arrow. So we could probably grab this and then just edit the points. So this point is going to be in the middle. Shouldn't really have a tail. Probably easier for me to make another one once you start bending those kind of points. Make it straight down. And now we are putting end to that, and we're adding 3. We are rounding the strokes. So see how we've rounded the strokes and everything else? Make sure we do the same with this to make everything look nice and round and pointy. No, the opposite of pointy. And make the border the same color. Maybe he doesn't need to be as big. Let's make him smaller. We're starting to lose a bit more, lose a bit too much space. And we can make these arrows I want the white space in this is going to speak volumes to the cleanliness and the ease of use of the product. You know, you look at things like Apple and stuff like that and how clean they make it. I might even make these arrowheads smaller, to be honest, because so we'll then put all these over these, so it's a very visual, and we'll actually remove this to begin with. And all right, so now we have like a little mini diagram where all 3 things are going to one point of contact. Change these to the blue. The we specialize in probably can lose a little bit of visual weight, actually. And now we want to basically stylize this text. So what we'll do, I'm thinking we'll lose the weight, but we'll change it to all caps. It's a little trick to make things easier to read. We're not in a sentence. You can do it to titles, but don't do it to whole sentences of text. No, that doesn't work. How do these work by themselves? Let's figure that out. Because we keep trying to muck around with this stuff. Got to figure out how they work best. If I grab one of these, does that work better as move it into the center, minimize it, change the line to 10, the line height. Let's grab 2 very different colors, hasn't it? It's an orange. Make the line height a little bit taller. What is going on here? I'll have to grab this hex value. There we go. It keeps making it orange. Oh no, that's the same. That's the same now. Now, how does that look? Does that stand out, or would it be better to maybe use a pill. So we'll grab a box. So there's heaps of different ways that you can frame text, and it's important to find out what works in each scenario. The way I did it before, I didn't like it. I'm not afraid to kill my babies, my design babies. So what we're doing now is we're just tweaking little things so they fit. And move it to 14. So it will read better as a pill. Or maybe as, do I still have this? It's not bad. That's not bad. I kind of like that. Let's give that a shot. And what we can do is we can have the arrows be physically attached to it as well. If they're the same color, that might work. That labor agreements will be dragged to the center. Helps if I can spell. And we'll make sure that is on the same line as that over there. Both of these the same color as that. And I'm just matching the size of the pill to be the same size as the text, with a little bit of spacing. You can grab both of them and just align them to middle, just to make sure that they're perfectly centered. Okay, and we're going to put this guy in a pill, but we're going to make him a large blue pill. And we'll see if we can explain that a little bit better. Okay, that was, are they using regular? No, they're using bold. Bold. Oh, now that's yelling. All with 1 point of contact. We're going to remove that because it is too big. Now this Roboto font is now showing signs of wear and tear, friends. It's been great to show. It's been great to prove a point and to show that to visually lay things out. But we're starting to see it as a bit like when I'm trying to show flavor and what's the word, style. We lose that just using Roboto. It's a very good body copy text, but we probably need a flavor to come out. So what I like to do is, if you just go onto their page, you'll be able to see what they use as their main font. See how this has a little bit more style to it. So we'll right click and we'll press inspect. And we'll read through here and we find out exactly what font they use. This is the best thing. Allah. Allah as a sans serif. So go Allah font. Cool. Font squirrel. Perfect. And we download the TTF. right click, install all, install the fonts. And when that's done, we should have some fonts. There we go. So we're just going to select all of it and just change the font to Allah. You should kind of keep everything perfect. Now, you'd be a fool to say that this font is better than Roboto. Roboto is a perfect font. It really is. But there, in some of the headers, we just needed a bit more flavor. And Roboto does a great job of legibility, but this kind of adds a little bit more to it. So we'll make this a little bit bigger. So we'll go 24 as the next step. So Visa Solutions will make it a tiny bit larger so people can see that. Drag this down. Visa Solutions, your full service migration agency. We specialize in labor agreements, recruitment, compliance, and all other aspects of employer migration, all with one point of contact. Okay, great. There you go. Now that is we'll make sure that this is sitting in the middle of the top and bottom there. We'll go 32 and 32, right? Make sure this spacing here is 32 from the top, and then we'll make sure that this is 32 from that, and then this will be, there's a second line on here. This will be 32 from the bottom. So that was 35, dropping it by 3, that's 32 from the bottom. Means we can grab all this and put that attached to the bottom. So we're just gonna what's the word? Add a bit of pop. When you give something like this back to a client, now it communicates perfectly, but we can add a little bit of visual layer of pop, and there are a few different ways we can do that. You know, drop shadows, different imagery, with different fonts, different colors, everything that we've done here. I'm just going to add a few little bits of flavor that I usually add to my designs, depending on the situation and what's required. I'll probably go a little bit over the top to show you some cool ideas, but we'll see how this goes. So Unsplash is a great website when you want free stock imagery, which is awesome. And we'll have a look at some similar stuff that they've done on their site here, which, so we have a guy working. So let's look at people working. Now, Unsplash will have a lot of, it's got a very like indie vibe to it. We could grab something with some paper, signing documents and things like that. We can, something like this is really good because he's working, but it also brings that blue sunset palette towards it. So I'm just going to start with that and see how this goes. Once again, try and give attribution where you can. I've dragged this in. Just got to wait a little bit for that to come in because I think I've brought in quite a large image. So just wait. There he is. It's quite a large image. All right, so we'll bring him in and we'll make him nice and small. And we will use him as this top kind of imagery at the back here. So we'll bring that down. So I'm just going to make the image larger. So you can see this guy's working. Maybe he can be a little bit smaller. And I'll mask out the image so that it fits our size perfectly. We're going to bring the logo to the left-hand side and we'll kind of pop it inside the window. you'll notice a lot of people will use the negative space inside an image to put their logo or to put their text. So this really works well for that. And you don't want to lose the clarity of the logo. Like the last thing you want to do is lose that clarity, because as soon as the message, the logo is lost, what are they reading? What are they there for? So now we're just going to bring out some more attention to some of these other things. I'm going to make we're going to style some of this stuff. All right, so what can I do here? We can bring this in. We'll go 16 pixels from the edge, so 2 more. One more from it. And we'll box this out of the image. So we're using the image as a tool, 16, 16, 16, all the same sizes here. And we'll round this out like we've done with the other stuff. And so you can see now that it's using the same pill style as what's down here. We're using all the colors that they have, and we're using this image as a frame for it. Or we can even go one step further. Oh, you ready for this? Watch this. So you grab the mask. Unfortunately, this mask doesn't work, so I'm just going to delete this, and I'll remake the mask. But I'm going to remake the mask using a rounded rectangle. So bring it out to here, we'll grab this image and we'll mask it. That did not work. This image, and mask. Perfect. Now I'm just going to set the specifications on this this mask here. So right now everything's 30, 31. I don't want that. I want to go, it goes top left, top right, bottom left. So we go 0. You got to space it with semicolons. So 0, 0, 31.5, 31.5. Because 31.5 was the maximum shape that it could, rounded edges it could select. Right. And so what you have is this rounded edges corner with this little pill. And then what we'll do is we'll do the same, but we'll do opposite on the bottom side, right? So we'll have 31.5, semicolon, 31.5, semicolon, 0, 0. And that's going to make the same at the bottom. So now we've got this bottom fish scale and top fish scale with all the information that we need on the inside. So that makes a really cool effect. Don't worry about this little white border. That's just a problem with Sketch and this artboard at the moment. And now I'm going to add 2 little more points to this. We're going to grab this mask shape, copy and paste, drag it in front and turn it so it's no longer a mask. We're going to make the mask into the dark color. And now we're kind of doing this as almost like a drop shadow, right? And I know drop shadows get overused and they get abused. You want to be subtle as possible when you're trying to use drop shadows. So I'm just going to pop that there, and I'm going to do the same by alt dragging this down and rotating this around as well. Right. So as you can see, I've added that and it looks utter garbage. You thought that it would look great. You can try reducing the opacity, but if you've got a bad idea, you execute it. It looks amazing in your mind, grapes, but it just doesn't come to fruition. Sometimes you just have to, kill it. It's just got to go. Instead, we can try and use a real subtle drop shadow. So we're going to make the y-axis, which means the shadow is going to drop real far down. So we've just clicked on the, let me just show you that. We've clicked on the my shape, and we've clicked on shadow. So we'll change that to 10, make it drift really far down, and we'll make the blur quite loud. So it looks like it's really sitting off the page. And we'll bring the amount nice and low. It's kind of sitting off, but we kind of lose a little bit of this sitting here. I'm not the biggest fan of it. This one definitely needs to go. That shouldn't be there. So we'll agree to disagree and remove it there. I think this flat design, we've kind of figured out that this flat design is the best way forward. There's one more thing I want to try. Let's grab all of these three, and we're going to add a shadow, right? The shadow is going to be the same color as this, just a little bit darker. We'll bring that down a bit. The blur is going to be set to 0, and we're just going to drop the Y down a tiny bit. So now they look like little buttons sitting off the top, right? And they'll make those things just pop off the top. You can do this by making the same color rectangle and placing it underneath. That works fine. You'll see these arrows now need to change color because they now look a different color. They don't look like they're coming from the shape anymore. So grab this and put it in there. Cool. So that's adding a little bit of flair, a little bit of style. All right. This guy is a bit faceless. Oh, I don't know whether it's... Now, you know what? I think we've done a pretty bang-up job here. The last thing we could do is grab the width of this, bring this down, drag that down so it's in front, behind that. Now, red on white is quite inaccessible. We're going to remove this shadow, and we're going to make it white, inaccessible to read. And we're going to turn this to the dark blue text. What is the bold? Yeah, cool. And also the MUN, it's not important information. It's quite unimportant. It's more like a regulatory thing to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So now this is. Now we have to relook at our spacing again. We'll make this only 16 pixels from that. We'll make this 16 pixels. It doesn't need to be equally spaced. 8 pixels should be fine. Just drop it from the previous to the next. And this isn't even in the center. I'm going to group that and just press the center button just to make sure. Okay. That's 32 from that. This needs to be brought in closer. And then now we can start to emphasize stuff on the page, right? So this call us, email us, doesn't need to be there. They know when they see an email that what the phone number is, and they know when they see the @ symbol, they know it's going to be a visa. So what we can do is grab this little dash, and we'll just turn this dash into 30% opacity, and it just kind of brings it back and stops that from being pulled out and distracting. And you now can see it's a phone number and an email separately. Let the team at Visa Solutions, so we're going to bold there. Visa Solutions make life easy for you and your company. Easy for you. We'll go you and your company. Let the team at Visa Solutions make life for you and your company. Contact us now. There's the details right at the bottom. So over here, we're going to go all with, and one point of contact is going to be the pull out there. we specialize in, that's fine, your full service migration agency. Everything about this is quite important. Let's leave that as is. Yeah, look, I think that's it. And if I picked up this document, you can clearly see now we started off with a Word doc that kind of, had no hierarchy, had unimportant things inside it. And we've brought it to something that's a little bit easier to read, and something that instantly your eyes are drawn. If you see nothing else, you see recruitment, labor agreements, compliance, and that's what else. Your eyes might even start here and then go back up to the top, read, Visa Solutions, your full service, okay, and then kind of scan it in that Z back down the page. So, yeah, man, that's it. If you guys enjoyed that, let me know. I thought it was really important to kind of show you every step and like the errors and my design thinking throughout the entire project, because you won't always get the chance to, it's great just to see a finished solution. But it's really important that when you hit a roadblock, all right, what can I do? You saw before, I dragged these to the side. How are they going to work? What's going to work best? I took away the distraction from the main element, the main page, and I just took these aside and I really kind of focused on them. So it's important to kind of work them out one by one, and then you'll get something like this. Now, I rock this up, and this video is an hour. If I had another, 4 hours on it, 5 hours on it, I'd make custom stuff. I'd try another 20, 30 different layouts and styles. But this was one way that we came to a final finish that's perfectly legible and easy to read. So cheers, guys. Have a good one. See ya.